of conspiracies. Here's one that's always interested me, and that's the JFK thing. Now, truthfully, I think Oliver Stone was probably the closest to anyone in mainstream to figure this out. But I got taking things one step further, and it's a wonderful conspiracy to go down many, many different rabbit holes. But I'll explain. I've always believed that it was the government that did it, but the government with the help from the mob. Now, what a lot of guys don't talk about, and you can actually search this up in history, is that during World War II, the mob and the government worked together to overthrow the Italians, the fascist government that ran Italy, basically, in World War II, Mussolini. So they created a lot of strong ties. Now you got to remember, when Kennedy was assassinated, World War II hadn't even been over 20 years. And when a lot of this stuff started happening, it had only been over 15. So keep that in mind. So all the same politicians that were in World War II that did this, they were still in power. So I think that there was a power play. Now, it's widely known, and it's been proven in a lot of cases, that Joe Kennedy got all three of his kids into politics. John, Robert, and Sweaty Teddy. No, that's disrespectful to Ted Nugent, our hero of Chappaquiddick. So, when they started getting into politics, Robert Kennedy started going after organized crime. Now, to set the stage up, let's tell you, and this has been proven, and this is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. In the 50s and on into the 60s, you started having a lot of mob interference because gambling, illegal things, whatnot. But the mob also helped Kennedy get elected. Through the Teamsters, they won West Virginia in the primaries, the Democratic primaries, and they had to win Illinois because Illinois was a swing state back in the 50s. And he barely edged out Vice President Nixon at the time for the presidency. So he comes in. Well, at the same time, Fidel Castro takes over Cuba about that same time. Lots of deals are made between the government and the mob and all of that. Well, of course, Castro reneges on every one of those deals. The mob out of New York loses all their money in Cuba. Hot Springs is shut down. New Orleans is still kicking. And there's a little town being built in Nevada by the Chicago mob. And the Teamsters used the pension fund to build Las Vegas. Jimmy Hoffa got in a lot of trouble for that. But that's a story for another day. So, despite the fact that mob connections got these three Kennedy boys elected, as soon as JFK hired his brother as Attorney General, he went after them full force. Enter Lyndon Johnson. Kennedy didn't want Lyndon Johnson as vice president, and there's rumors that he was going to be removed for the 64 ticket. Kennedy didn't think he could win Texas without Johnson, and he was probably right. So, the Bay of Pigs happened. It's just Marilyn Monroe. It's just racked with conspiracy, and it's like the Kennedy presidency, as short-lived as it was what great novels are made out of. I mean, it had everything. But Robert F. Kennedy was going after mobsters. He was going after anybody he deemed corrupt. He was just unhinged. And he went after the Teamsters. He went after the New York mob. You know, he's the one that went after Sonny Francis and got him basically, well, as far as I can concern, he was set up and thrown into prison for 50 years for that. He went after Marcello in and Trafficante and all these, and Sam Giancana. He was going after them all. And the mob wanted him gone. But here's the other thing. The federal government, certain powers there, were not happy with Kennedy either. Because, well, Johnson wanted to escalate the war in Vietnam, and Kennedy wanted us out of there. And Johnson knew that he had promises to keep. This is my speculation. But I'll tell you what, as soon as he was president, every arms manufacturer and aircraft manufacturer based in Texas, Bell Helicopter, Convair, Consolidated, even Armalite, suddenly was flush with cash. I've always contested that John F. Kennedy, or not JFK, that Lyndon B. Johnson was probably one of our most corrupt presidents we've ever seen. But that's a story for another day too. So you have all of these things going on. So the mob wanted RFK gone. So why didn't they just get rid of RFK? Well, there's a problem. He's the president's brother. And if you knock off the president's brother, the full weight of the federal government is on you. I remember RFK was probably one of the only politicians my dad really just outright hated. I never heard my dad call anyone a fascist except him. But that's also a story for another day. But RFK was, you could almost say he was really just abusing his position, but that's up for debate. He did a lot of things that were illegal, like Carlos Marcello, the mob boss in New Orleans. He actually kidnapped him in the illegally and dumped him in the jungles of Guatemala. That actually happened. And of course the Bay of Pigs was going on, and it was just a bad time. And basically I'm thinking, when they found out, Johnson found out he wasn't going to be on the 64 ticket, I think that was it. So you remember the ties that the government had with the mob? I think it was a joint effort. I really think that they got together, they hatched a plan, because they realized that they couldn't just do away with RFK. They had to kill the head. And so they got rid of JFK. And the minute they got rid of JFK, RFK's power vaporized like that, because in '64, Johnson ditched RFK. And, of course, had Robert F. Kennedy not been assassinated in 1968, he would have beat Richard Nixon. I'm pretty sure of that. And I think the mob was still, the mob has long memories, and I think that this was like, you should have just gone away. And somehow Teddy still lived. Anyhow, so they did that. But I think it was a joint effort. And if you really want a neat conspiracy to go down and start looking at the rabbit holes and everything that was going on, you can spend days and days and days on this. So this is kind of an interesting one. Because the Warren Commission was just kind of just the spackle, just to cover up the cracks to get us to move on. The Garrison investigation and a couple of them that were forced to be opened after that, those revealed other things that we don't talk about anymore. And I think it's a neat conspiracy, and I think it's worth going down that rabbit hole. So if you like good conspiracies and you want to see everything that Hollywood movies are made of and the best novels, I mean, this is a Grisham novel come to life. The JFK conspiracy, but started in about 1956, 57, and trail that all the way to 79. It is a fascinating study.